Okay, good evening, everyone. We're going to begin. Thank you and welcome to Candidates Night 2018, co-sponsored by the Rockland Democrat and Republican Town Committees. My name is Jared Valenzola, and I'm the chairman of the Rockland Republican Town Committee and co-moderator for tonight's event. Before we begin, we'd like to ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to ask that you please remain standing for a moment of silence as we remember Betty Kimball, Vera Manzella, former Selectman Paul Ryan, and of course this morning Rockland said farewell to one of our absolute finest, Bob Biggins. Bob served our community with passion, kindness, and love of neighbor, family, and friends. He consoled thousands in their darkest times and truly helped many through the grief and pain of losing a loved one. To Dan Biggins and your entire family, know that our thoughts, prayers, and love are with you all. Thank you. And of course, I'd be remiss if we didn't thank Dave Murphy of WRPS and Peggy Bryan, the Council on Aging Director. Really thank you guys for your flexibility between storms and power outages the last month. Getting this event together was certainly challenging, and we certainly appreciate their flexibility and willingness to bring this to the voters of Rockland. We feel, on behalf of John Ward and myself, that this is an important event for the voters. So again, thank you both very much for your willingness to help. And I'd now like to introduce John Ward, Chairman of the Democratic Town Committee.
Thank you, Jared. I'd like to thank Jared for coordinating this meeting tonight. He did a lot of background work to set it all up, and I appreciate all your hard work, Jared. I'd like to also recognize some of the people that are with us this evening, who I see in the audience, some of your elected officials, in addition to the candidates that will appear here this evening. There's the mayor of Rockland, John Rogers. And we have other selectmen from the alumni class. There's Jack Murphy. There's current selectmen. There's Ed Kimball. Michael Laughlin, Larry Ryan, and Deirdre Hall was kind enough to drop off some cookies and pastries at the back of the room. If you're so inclined, help yourself. In addition, our collector here is Judy Hardigan, and our treasurer, John Ellard, is in the audience. So, with that, let Jared take it away.
Thank you, and we forgot one other Selectman alumni, my dad, Lou Valenzola. Can't forget the man responsible for me. All right, so just quick, some ground rules that each candidate was given ahead of time. They were each given some questions ahead of time that you should anticipate being asked, as well as the outline of the rules. Be a 3-minute open, a 2-minute to answer questions, and then a 1-minute closing. And again, we will hear first from the Board of Health, and then School Committee, and finally Town Clerk. So we'll give the Board of Health candidates a moment to come forward, get themselves settled, and then we'll begin with questions. Thank you. We will first have an opening statement by Steve Nelson.
Good evening. My name is Steve Nelson. I've been a member of the Board of Health now for pretty close to 20 years. Currently the chairman. There's more to, I think, Board of Health than meets the eye. I think the biggest thing we talk about and the most obvious thing we see is curbside trash pickup. And we could probably talk back and forth about that all night. But I do want to just touch base on a couple of other things that we do. We do food inspections on all the anything that public food service, whether it be restaurants or stores. We do those inspections, and we've kept up on those. We do some housing inspections, primarily by complaint or phone call. We had looked into maybe a more comprehensive housing plan, but we haven't done anything with that yet. At the moment, we think we're in pretty good shape with housing. Not to mention, we get the reports from visiting nurse, we get the reports of illness and things like water shutoffs and things we're notified about, anything that could affect the public health. I'm a registered sanitarian, which was the qualification that kind of led me to be on the board. And I've been happy to be here, to be a member of the Board of Health, and I'd like to continue doing that. So I guess we get right down to the most obvious thing that people are talking about is how we manage the trash contract. Rockland is a perfect candidate for curbside trash pickup. I think probably the first thing we would all agree to is if we were trying to do private haulers, we would, if everyone had their own hauler or tried to get the stuff to the dump, which we don't even have a dump, it would be a nightmare. Keeping a town-wide contractor for the hauling of the trash is an important thing. The biggest thing is the change in contractor, and that was a little bit painful at first, and from what I'm understanding, we've smoothed that out quite a bit. So that's my first pitch, and that's it.
Thank you, Steve. Sam, your opening.
Hello, my name is Samantha Murphy. I'm new to voting or the elections. I'm 28 years old, a Rockland graduate of 2008, and I'm primarily running for the Board of Health because I would like to see the board get a little bit more transparent in its ways. I am a third generation, lifelong Rockland resident, and basically from what I see within the website and from what you hear, that there's no talk about fleas and ticks. There's no talk about trash pickup within the center of town or any of those, let's say, any of those different aspects of trash. Yes, curbside pickup we do have, but we don't have, trash at all the parks. We don't have trash uptown. Where were those things when the contract was put in place? And other than that, I have more ideas based on what I do for work. I know we don't have septic in this town, but I do have an extensive knowledge of septic and construction and housing, to say the least. I have that. So.
We'll go on to the question and answer portion. And why don't we start with Mr. Nelson? And this will also apply to Ms. Murphy. But the first question is, was recycling contract a good idea, and why?
That's a great question. It's kind of a moot point because recycling is mandated by DEP. We have no choice but to recycle. So what DEP has done is they put a waste ban on. You can't put sticks and stones, leaves and stuff in your curbside trash. You can't put anything recyclable, which is plastics, bottles and cans and paper and all that stuff. That's banned from the trash. So the best thing you can do is try to do the best you can separating those items. Can we do better? It would be good. There's a lot of things going on in the recycling market now. It used to be that we would get paid back for some of the recycling that we generated, and that market is gone, so we pay the full cost of getting rid of the recycling. I know it's expensive, and that was why we had to go to every other week on recycling. It was going to be at least $5 or $6 more a quarter to go weekly, and at that point we had already raised the rates once, so we thought that was maybe not the best idea. So.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. I'll repeat the question for Ms. Murphy. Was the recycling contract a good idea, and why?
Recycling contract is a good idea based on how it was put to the town, probably not. But single stream recycling for each home is a very good idea. Biweekly, yeah, we have a bigger barrel for recycling, and you can always get a free barrel. All you have to do is pick up the phone and call the Board of Health. Recycling is far more important than trash. The more trash you generate, the worse the ozone layer gets, the worse, that the planet is not going to take that styrofoam, that plastic, much longer. So recycling is a very good thing.
Hey, thank you. We'll first do this question for Ms. Murphy. What is your opinion on recreational marijuana, and what role do you feel the Board of Health plays in it? Or statutorily, what role does the Board of Health play?
My opinion on recreational marijuana, I do think there definitely should be age limits on it between the town and people, of the town. Let's see. As far as a dispensary goes, a dispensary would be a good generation of profit for the town. Should we let kids that are, just wanting to go out and have fun and drive around town with, expectations like that? It's the same as drunk driving. But for the town's sake, it would be a good profit.
Mr. Nelson, Steve, same question. Your opinion on recreational marijuana. Do you see the Board of Health playing a role, statutorily or otherwise?
Most towns around here are taking an independent vote on whether they want to have a marijuana dispensary in town. I don't know how this town would vote. I don't particularly have an opinion on it, whether it's good or bad, or I'm just indifferent to it. Whatever the town votes, if the town were to vote on saying yes to having a marijuana dispensary in town, I think the Board of Health would play a role in that. I've been to a couple of the seminars where they talk about marijuana, the edibles, and it isn't just marijuana you smoke. There's all kinds of, there's juice, there's all kinds of stuff, and a lot of that begins to be when you start putting it in food, now you're regulating it twice. We regulate food that's for sale to the public. So, I mean, you've got a couple of things going. If the town were to vote on having a marijuana dispensary, I'm sure the Board of Health would have a role in keeping it safe.
This question is to start with Mr. Nelson. What's the biggest issue facing the Board of Health?
I think the most obvious issue is still trash, and the managing of trash, getting it out of town and making sure it ends up in a proper disposal. Not we're just talking about not blowing all over the streets and not being disposed illegally and not being thrown away. We've looked into a number of options, and the only thing we can do is just keep moving forward to keeping Rockland clean and free from the bad effects of trash. Rockland's done a great job of cleaning up the town. And, you know, we've got volunteers that clean up the walking path, the old rail trail, and you know, people pull together and do good things. So I think that's the most obvious. The next most obvious is housing. We have a lot of public housing and, you know, rental housing in town. And that does come under the housing code, which is mandated under the Board of Health. Those are the two most important things I can think of.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nelson. Ms. Murphy, I'll repeat the question. What's the biggest issue facing the Board of Health?
I do believe it is the trash as well. Based on what I see around town, there is still a lot of trash floating around, whether it just be, you know, old waste or whatnot, but, you know, there are a lot of people in this town that have helped clean, a lot of volunteers and free time between the rail trail, between just main street maintenance, but my biggest issue is even trash uptown, trash at public parks, and the other thing I have facing the Board of Health right now, I think, is the opioid epidemic, which is it's hit Rockland very hard. It's hit my class very hard. It's hit the classes above me. Watching people, or young people, even older people, pass on from such a tragic disease or addiction, whatever you'd like to call it, is very sad. And I feel like as a public health official, you should be able to at least help and aid those people or any of their relatives that need information on what to do or where to go next.
Thank you. We'll do the next question first to Ms. Murphy. What new initiatives would you spearhead, and what are your new ideas for the Board of Health?
My biggest initiative that I'd spearhead is definitely fixing up the website first. If you look at other towns around us, their minutes are posted. The last minutes posted from any Board of Health meeting in Rockland is 2015. Other than that, they have, you know, flea and tick programs with some companies around here. If you get your yard sprayed, you get a percentage off, and the town has either a contract with them. Other than that, I have my biggest issue is most of their meetings are held at 4 or 4:15 before most people get out of work. And if you get out of work at 5 and you want to go to a public health meeting, you can't. You know, they should be later in the day after everybody gets out, between 6 and 6:30, maybe even 7. But it should be, you know, we're a public board of health, and if the public can't go, then it's just the board.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Steve, same question. What are your new initiatives would you spearhead, and what are your new ideas for the Board of Health?
Well, I would have to agree with the website being updated. I think that's being done in Town Hall. And we can probably push a little bit harder on that. New initiatives, you know, we're hearing a lot about the opioid epidemic, and we would do whatever we can as a local Board of Health to try to help with that. As far as meeting times go, even when our meetings were at 7 o'clock, we got very, very minimal attendance, and anybody in town is welcome to attend. All you have to do is call ahead, get on the agenda, and say your piece. It's really easy to do. We could certainly reschedule a time. If you were to call and you wanted to be at a meeting and you couldn't make it at 4:45, we would be glad to make it later and work with anybody who wants. So our meetings are open meetings. We've never turned anybody away, and we'd be happy to have anybody interested come on down to the meetings.
Thank you. Seeing no questions from the audience, we'll now move to closing statements. We do have a question from the audience. Okay, I'm sorry. Thought you guys were getting off that easy, didn't you? All right, so Mr. Nelson, you first. Plastic bags are not allowed in the recycling stream. If elected, would you ban plastic bag use in Rockland?
Not by myself. I think plastic bags are like anything else. They're a great convenience, and people like them, and there are towns that are banning them. I'm not sure what the alternative is. As far as putting plastic bags in the recycling, we do our best to tell people that the soft plastic, anything soft plastic, can't go in the recycling because it ties up all the machinery. Stop and Shop and just about virtually every store out there has recycling for plastic bags. And I don't mean by making like the Christmas tree ornaments in the trees. So what can we do? I don't know. I'm not sure banning plastic bags is the way to go. I think even on the Cape, they're talking about banning plastic water bottles. So banning things is, I don't know, it's a little heavy-handed. So I'm not sure what the answer is to that.
Hey, Ms. Murphy, same question. Plastic bags are not allowed into the recycling stream. If elected, would you ban plastic bag use in Rockland?
I agree with Mr. Nelson. I definitely wouldn't do it by myself. But plastic is a very big, part in what you see floating around town. Where does it go? If it doesn't go in your trash, where does it go? If you bring them all back, maybe we can have a collection of bags instead of banning them. Bring them up to the town hall, bring them up somewhere that you can go and say, all right, well, I have all these plastic bags at home. I can't reuse them. What can we do with them?
That's it. Thank you. There's another question from the audience, and I'll start with Ms. Murphy. What kind of certification do you have that will benefit the board?
I do not have any ServSafe certifications or anything like that. However, as a 28-year-old, I do have 10 years of management under my belt, 12 years of retail, customer service. Other than that, I have, I've dealt with the public for the last 12 years of my life, and I have always done it with a smile on my face, and I've never really had to, manage a restaurant or anything like that, but I have had to manage people, and I've managed a multi-million-dollar Land's End department, but I think that my customer service background will definitely help the board.
Thank you. Same question for Mr. Nelson. What kind of certification do you have that will benefit the board?
As I mentioned, I'm a registered sanitarian, which is pretty much like a general health specialist. I'm also a member of Massachusetts Health Officers Association, a member of Massachusetts Environmental Health Association. Those I do on my own. My own business involves water and wastewater. I'm licensed in both. And so between the licenses I carry, I have a pretty good awareness of what the public health issues might be.
Great, we have one more question. Is there a disposal method for a resident who misses trash day pickup? 2 weeks of trash will not fit in the barrel, so what should the household do if they need a new pickup? We'll start with Mr. Nelson first.
That would be a great subject for an open meeting. I'm not sure quite what we would do. Trying to send the big truck back to off route is hugely expensive, and whether there's some way we can work with people who miss a trash pickup. We always try. I mean, most of that time that comes from the office. The contractor has been pretty good about trying to catch back up to some of the stuff that gets missed. The world is not a perfect place, and I certainly agree that these trash bins don't carry 2 weeks' worth of trash. So it is an issue, and we're still working on trying to come up with a good solution.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Same question. Is there a disposal method for a resident who misses trash day pickup, or would you propose one? 2 weeks of trash will not fit in the barrel, so what should the household do if they need a new pickup?
I don't, at this time, there is no real way to go back and pick up trash that is missed. However, you can always look for more ways to recycle in your house. Between, food containers and things like that, you can't put them in the recycle, so they do go up in the trash and they do eat up a lot of space. But there's always a way that we can try, or at least go back to the company that we started the contract with to see if there's any way we can, help residents other than buying a new barrel.
Great, thank you. We'll now move to the 60-second closing statement. We'll start with Mr. Nelson.
I'm running for re-election. I thoroughly enjoyed my time on the board, and I would enjoy more time. I think we do good work. I think we've been under the radar for quite a while. When I first got on the board, the Board of Health in Rockland was making headlines for some of the knockdown, drag-down arguments that they were having, and we've managed to come up with a more civil tone. We always invite people to open meetings. We would still invite people to open meetings. If that requires changing the meeting times, I think the board is amenable to that. We'll do our best to serve the public and keep the public health in good condition.
Thank you. Ms. Murphy, your closing statement.
As a newcomer, but as a town resident as well, I would like to see still some more transparency, to try to make the board more transparent to all of its residents, whether it be social media based, whether it be, getting out and serving the public, and not just as in, is the food safe at a restaurant, but there is trash out there. Can we go out as volunteers with you guys and help pick up, not just volunteers for the town, but the town, elected officials as well. I've went out and I've volunteered to pick up trash either on the rail trails or anywhere else in town, whether it be on my own time or just volunteered time. And I haven't really seen many people that are elected to the Board of Health that, where our solid waste disposal comes from out there.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'd like to thank Stephen Nelson and Samantha Murphy, the candidates for positions on the Board of Health. The next group of candidates are for the school committee, and I'd ask you to please come forward, if you will. In the meantime, as they come up, I just want to announce some of the positions that are available and currently unopposed. There's Board of Selectmen, Mike Mullen, Treasurer, John Ellard, Town Collector, Judith Hartigan, Board of Assessors, Charles Werner, Board of Assessors, Diane Milano, Housing Authority, John Davis, Library Trustees, Patricia Foley and Kathleen Looney, Park Commissioner, Joseph Reese, Planning Board, Charles Williams, Sewer Commissioner, Walter Simmons, and Water Commissioner, June Pat Donnelly.
Great, thank you. And just when talking, make sure to try and get the mics closer. I think it picks up better for folks in the back. So we'll now move to our three candidates for school committee, and we'll have their 2-minute opening statements, starting with Ms. Maroney.
Good evening. My I first want to offer my condolences to Mr. Dan Biggins and the whole Biggins family. Mr. Bob Biggins was an amazing father.
We'll let you start over.
I'm off to a great start. Good evening. I first want to offer my condolences to Mr. Dan Biggins and the whole Biggins family. Mr. Bob Biggins was an amazing father, grandfather, and fiance, a great community leader, and will surely be missed. Sorry, that one hit a little bit. All right. I am Jill Maroney, a graduate of Rockland High School, class of 1991. My husband, Craig, also Rockland High School, class of 1991, and I have owned a home in Rockland for 17 years. We have a son attending Rogers Middle School in the 6th grade and a daughter attending Memorial Park Elementary School in the 4th grade. I have been volunteering for the past 5 years on the Memorial Park PAC, the last 4 years as co-chair, also volunteering with 2 years on the school council at Memorial Park Elementary School, and currently in my 2nd year on the school council at Rogers Middle School. You may be wondering what Jill Maroney brings to the table. I bring strength in the relationships I've established by being raised in Rockland, being a mom on the sidelines and playgrounds, and volunteering on the MP PAC for 5 years. I bring wisdom, not only from attending Eston Elementary School, Rockland Junior High School, and graduating from Rockland High School, but also by volunteering on Memorial Park PAC on both student councils. I've learned some ins and outs of how schools run currently. I worked side by side with the principals, Mrs. Sheehan, Mrs. Bond, and the teachers, and within the superintendent's office, Mrs. Lamb, Mrs. Penny, Ms. Forlizzi, and Dr. Cron. I also bring uniqueness to the school committee by being the only parent with children currently in the Rogers Middle School. I started volunteering to become familiar with the teachers and faculty in the schools of which my children would attend, to get to know the families that my children would be growing up with. I am proud to be from Rockland, as you can tell. I think learning a sense of community is huge. While on MP PAC, I started a turkey challenge fundraiser. The students buy a feather to add to the turkey on their classroom door for 50 cents. The classroom turkey with the most feathers wins a prize, but more importantly, the money is raised goes to feeding 2 Memorial Park families soups to nut meals for Thanksgiving dinner. And we also sponsor 2 families through Holiday Magic. Another fundraiser I started was the Gold Coin Challenge. Same idea as the feathers, but a cauldron on the door with gold coins to be purchased for 50 cents. The money earned goes to providing 2 Rockland High School seniors that attended Memorial Park $500 scholarships towards college. We raffle off a ride with a police officer, a ride on a fire truck, lunch with a police officer, lunch with a firefighter, and lastly, lunch with Mrs. Sheehan. All of these reach out to the families and townspeople of Rockland, building a strength of strong Rockland pride, establishing early that once you are a bulldog, you are always a bulldog. I am organized, professional, smart, strong, dependable, kind, and a bulldog. I think this is a pivotal point for the town of Rockland and the Rockland Public Schools, and I look forward to being part of the future of Rockland. I am Jill Maroney. Please vote for me on April 14th.
Thank you, Ms. Maroney. Dr. Small, your opening statement.
Thank you. So I want to thank you for hosting this event tonight and for providing me with an opportunity to introduce myself. Also, thank you for making accommodations for this event so that we could all support the Biggins family, as they are such pivotal members of this community. And I am happy to have this opportunity to introduce myself to the members of this town, as I know I do not know many of you. I am not a Rockland High graduate. But for those of you who don't know me, I am Dr. Melissa Small, and I have been a resident of Rockland for almost 8 years. I'm a pediatrician, a mom of 3 young kids, and a current member of the school committee. Almost 1 year ago, a vacancy developed on school committee, and I was unanimously appointed by both the school committee and the Board of Selectmen to fill that position. Over this past year, it's been a privilege to serve that important role, one that guides the progress and the development of the Rockland Public School system. My background is not in education, but I know a lot about opportunity and dreams. I'm the first in my family to go to college, and therefore the first to go on to medical school. I was smart and I had a dream, but there was no clear path before me and no one to guide me. But with hard work and opportunity, I found my way. And having that opportunity to find a way to accomplish their dreams is something every child in this town deserves. It doesn't matter what that dream is, to be an electrician or a mechanic, To be an entrepreneur or an accountant, to be a doctor or a lawyer, the kids in this town should be able to receive the education, the experiences, and the opportunity to turn those dreams into reality. The current school committee and school administration, including Dr. Cron, Ms. Verlizzi, the principals, administrators, and teachers are well on the way to ensuring that Rockland Public Schools provide a strong educational platform for our children, with a myriad of opportunities to enrich their education, from athletic to fine and performing arts, foreign travel, and community-oriented experiences. It is my hope that we continue to develop the opportunities for our kids to find and follow their dreams. As a school committee member, I have the unique perspective of both a mother and a pediatrician. I'm well aware of all the challenges that face our children socially, emotionally, and physically. As a school committee member, I'm able to review presentations on policy and curriculum through the lens of a pediatrician, which is important and distinct from the perspective and viewpoint of my colleagues. My perspective has allowed the school committee a depth that was previously not present. I hope that the citizens of the town will find my skills and talents a benefit to the school committee. It's my hope that the town will put their trust in me to allow me a seat at the table as we guide the school system through a crucial time period of growth and development. My work on the school committee is important to me and an opportunity for me to give back to this community and help ensure that the opportunity to chase dreams is one that all of our children are given. So please vote for me on April 14th.
Thank you. And Mr. Mills, your opening statement.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much for having this forum. I'm Tom Mills, Jr. You might see the sign. Somebody asked me today at church, they thought my son was running for school committee. I said, no, it's me. Yes. I'm a current member of the school committee. I have been for the last 15 years, completing that. I also am a teacher in Boston Public Schools. I hold a license in science and business. I'm a retired Army CW2 warrant officer, and I teach Army JROTC in Boston Public Schools in a quiet neighborhood in Dorchester, Airfields Corner. I've been involved with the schools and the school committee. I've been on the committee for building the new building, the new elementary school, but I also was a part of the high school, middle school building committee, and I really am proud that what we were able to accomplish by getting those new schools, particularly when the state has the money to give to us, and and we qualify for that. One of the things that I really enjoy working with students. I work with students daily, and I enjoy working also with the administration that we have in Rockland Public Schools. I think we've moved quite well over the last 10, 15 years in having outstanding administrators and outstanding teachers that provide the proper education and a good education for our students and our citizens. I have a grandchild. My grandson goes to Memorial Park, so I still keep in contact with the elementary schools that way. So I look at it and I'm saying, this is actually my wife didn't want me to run this time. Don't tell her. She wants me to retire. No, I can't do that. So anyways, I really, really enjoy doing what I'm doing. So if you have the wherewithal, please vote for me on April 14th, next week. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go to the question and answer portion, and we'll start with Mr. Mills. I'll do the same question. I would suggest that anyone in the audience, if you have questions that you want to fill out, just raise your hand, and we'll have somebody pick up the card for you. But the question is, Mr. Mills, what is your opinion about a single versus multiple elementary school?
I think one of the reasons why we are having a feasibility study is to determine that. What is the reason, looking at it, why, what can we do? What are our assets that we have today that we can employ for the single school or multiple school, and where the locations would be. So the feasibility study is going to determine that. My opinion would be, I would like to see a single elementary school in the town. Looking at the census of the upcoming enrollments, I believe that we can have a better educational, as a coordinated education. If we look at it, what we try to do on the school committee is we have educational curriculum, and it's the same at all the elementary schools. Sometimes it doesn't get implemented the same way, and it's just because of the different styles of the other principals. We work to do that so each student has the same tracking or the same educational underpinnings to move forward in their field of studies.
Thank you. I'll repeat the question for Dr. Small. What is your opinion on a single versus multiple elementary schools?
So I think Dr. Cron and his team of administrators have done a really nice job over the past 1 to 2 years, where they have worked to bring all of the principals and all of the teachers at the 3 different elementary schools together on the same page, so the students are getting the same curriculum. I think the big issue is that the schools are really old. The schools are really old, and it costs a lot of money to keep them up. And it would be very nice for the town, for a number of reasons, to have, with assistance from the state, a new school, a new elementary school, so that we can give to our elementary students the same wonderful opportunities that we've been able to provide to the junior high and the high school students with technology and all of the modern classroom or the modern classrooms that they've been able to provide. I think it's really important. I think it would be hard to do that in 3 separate schools versus 1 school, and I think that's what it comes down to, is that they've done a really nice job aligning the curriculum, but the facilities are really an issue right now.
Thank you. And the same question for Ms. Maroney. What is your opinion about a single versus multiple elementary schools?
I would have to go with, my opinion would be to have 1 school. I have a son in the middle school, and there's a big difference when they get up into the middle school. 5th grade is a big grade, coming out of 4th grade, coming out of elementary school. There's a big difference between the 3 schools, Jefferson, Memorial Park, and Eston, in curriculum, because the teachers don't all teach at the same pace. They don't get to communicate with each other as well. If they were all in the same school, they would be just doors apart. They'd be able to have their meetings on their time to be able to make sure they're running on the same pace. They'd also know the children that they all have, so they'd be able to sort of coordinate that way. I think it's just stronger for curriculum, for balance, to be able to go from the elementary schools up into middle school if they all have 1 school.
Thank you. We'll do a question from the audience, though I'll alter it just a little bit, and we'll start with Dr. Small. So at town meeting, when we vote on all our budgets, each department has to list a detail of where their monies are being spent, sans the school department. It's 1 line, 1 bottom line budget, which is protected by, I believe, state law. However, would you be in favor of changing it to show a more detailed school department budget at town meeting?
I think if that's what the people of Rockland want, then I have no problem with that. We recently presented the town budget to the finance committee. We say over and over again, if you attend the school committee meetings, any questions that you have, everything's an open book, right? Our taxes are what fund the school system, so if you want to see where every single penny goes, then certainly we can open that up. I'm not sure that everybody wants that level of detail, but if they do, I don't have a problem with it. I think before that happens, I think at any time, just make an appointment with the superintendent or come to a school committee meeting, and we can certainly make that happen.
Ms. Maroney, same question. Again, at town meeting, folks get detailed budgets to vote on for every other department but the school department. Would you be in favor of a detailed budget in the town meeting warrant?
I think if it's something that is requested, if the other departments also need to do it, then I would be for doing it in the school committee. I think it should be an open book. If there's questions, they should have answers.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Same question. Do I need to repeat it?
No,
Thank
I understood the question. Interesting question. Never thought of it that way. I'm just, one of the first things I would think is that to read each line item at the town meeting, we could be there for a while. But I believe it's, the school committee is responsible for executing the budgets, formulating it, and using the information that the superintendent and the of the schools, what they do with, how they handle the money, and you do see there is transfers in between. They have some transfers if there's line items that need to be adjusted. They will do that, but I would say no. I think that information is available. I mean, you can come to a school committee meeting. You can call any of the school committee members, and we can go over any of those budgets at any good time. I would say no.
Thank you. The next question, and this will be for Ms. Maroney. In regard to school security, should teachers be armed?
We knew this was coming, right? I think this is more than a 5-minute answer, 2-minute answer, whatever I have. I first think, as a mom, I'm not sure that I feel that it's up to me to tell the teachers to hold a gun. I do hope that they are doing their best to protect my children, but I think that is what they are doing. I think that this is a bigger topic for a bigger day, along with having the teachers be involved in the conversation and more making sure the teachers are teaching our students rather than worrying about where their gun is in the classroom.
Next, Dr. Small. I won't repeat the question. I think we all know.
No, I agree. This is a much bigger topic and a much bigger issue. And really, my personal opinion would not, in the role as the person on the school committee, the representative on the school committee, it wouldn't be my single decision on whether or not that would happen. What I do think is happening is there's a lot of good work that's going into the schools as far as keeping our kids safe. There's the ALICE program that the school has invested in. We have a full-time school resource officer. There is a plan to keep our kids safe. Personally, I'm not sure that the answer is more guns. But that's me personally. And there's a committee, and nothing would be my single decision. But there are a lot of things that are happening to keep our kids safe, and that's what's really most important.
Thank you. Mr. Mills, the same question.
My answer would be emphatically no. I've spent 28 years in the Army and the Army National Guard, qualified with weapons every year. Guns don't belong in schools. I've had this discussion. Like I said, I work in Dorchester. I've had this discussion with teachers at my school in Dorchester, and there's a mixed feeling down there. It's the last thing that we need in a school is to have other people that aren't highly trained, don't do it on a normal basis, having a weapon in a classroom. Especially with students, the way, students, they know what you have, and they'll find it. And then that weapon will be turned around against everybody else in that school. Emphatically no.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Staying with the school security theme, should each school have an armed guard? And I believe we started with Mr. Maroney the first, so Mr. Mills.
I look at it, an armed guard, again, the same issue. I would say no. We have Boston, in Boston again, looking at that, we have school police officers there. They are not armed. And I've seen occasions where the school police officers had to get into breaking up fights, which is, and they can get pretty horrific in that effect. And I've seen where students have attacked those particular police officers. And to have them with weapons, again, would not help. Would not help. I mean, they get help. Boston Police is not that far away, and I think those are the people that need to be available for protection of all of our citizens, but particularly the schools.
Dr. Small,
Yeah.
same question.
I think there's a much better utilization of resources that could be done than putting an armed guard at every school building. I think if you look at what's happened recently, just having an armed guard does not necessarily protect kids. And I think that the more you escalate, the more whatever you can dream up, somebody can dream up an evil to counteract it. So you put an armed guard there, and that's just the first person that they look to. They know there's an armed guard. None of these are random, right? Nobody's randomly walking into a school. These are planned things. So they know there's an armed guard there. That's what they're going to go to first. And then there's no one to protect the kids. I think there's much bigger issues, and there's a much better utilization of resources possible. And I think that things have to happen not just locally, but on statewide and national levels to keep our kids safe. But I don't think that the answer is an armed guard at every school building.
Thank you, Ms. Maroney.
I would have to agree. I don't think an armed guard is necessarily the answer. I believe Officer Schnabel and the SRO here in the Rockland school system is doing his best to teach the faculty and staff at each school, along with the administration, what the ALICE program that is coming. If you're not sure of the ALICE program, it's alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. And they're already in the process of training it into all of the schools, the 5 schools. I think that it needs to come across, or it needs to be trained in that manner, rather than just putting a man with a gun outside of the door. Things happen inside the school, not necessarily where that one man is. That's, I would say no guy.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with Dr. Small. In your opinion, what are the biggest issues facing the Rockland Public Schools?
The biggest issue facing the Rockland Public School is, I think, what we're working on right now, which is with a feasibility study and partnering with the state and looking to see whether it's possible for us to consolidate the 3 schools and move forward into a single school with better resources, because all 3 of our schools are requiring an extensive amount of upkeep just to keep them going. And so that's a large part of it. I think the other large part is something that kind of goes on throughout the country and is not unique to Rockland, but looking at kids' social and emotional development and looking at the issues that people have with bullying, and they've always been there, but they've gotten worse in our, the current environment with so much social media and so much access to people 24/7. I think that's another really important issue that the school is working on and needs to continue to be brought to the forefront, because we need to make sure that all our kids are being able to learn in a safe environment, so physically, emotionally, socially.
Thank you, Dr. Small. Same question for Ms. Maroney. What are the biggest issues facing the Rockland Public Schools?
I would have to agree with Dr. Small. It is the school. I think that's the most question I've been asked in this last month about having a new school, if it would be one school, where would it end up, and how I feel about that. I also feel that it is school safety. I've been asked that question as well. We're all feeling the same thing, feeling the same concerns. It's budgets, it's safety, it's things that we want the little people in our world to feel safe when they go to school. Also bullying. These are, I think, the three, top things that are continuously brought up. It's constantly on our minds, and it's something that we on the school committee would need to strive to figure out the answers to.
Thank you, Ms. Maroney. Mr. Mills?
I agree with the facilities. I would say that technology, keeping updated with technology, that's where the jobs are. That's where you have to teach the students. It doesn't matter if you're going to be an artist. Everybody uses technology today, and keeping up with maintaining the high standards of technology that is being used in the schools to make sure that it is at that point where they can move on and learn and keep on adding on to their education by using that technology. It's important, and by us, we need to maintain that, and that's, and it's an expensive proposition because it is a throwaway, and this technology lasts 2-3 years, and it changes over again. And having teachers that understand how to use technology and educating our students, and that's like, again, that's in every subject and every part of the curriculum. Technology is being used, and we need to maintain that for our students.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Next question, be Ms. Maroney first. What initiatives would you spearhead if elected to the school committee, and what are your new ideas?
I feel like this is a hard one to come into the school committee and say, well, I'm going to do it my way. This is what I want done. I think I kind of have to learn the ropes of the school committee. I think I have experience working in the schools. I think I come with that. But I think I need to sort of learn how these guys roll a little bit at first and sort of learn to work with them as a team, take what I have, my perspective, my middle school mom, that sort of thing, and bring it to the table as well, not necessarily walk in and say, this is how we're going to do things.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Same question. If elected or re-elected, what initiatives would you spearhead, and what are your new ideas for Rockland Public Schools?
Basically, what I had just had talked about is keeping the technology up there. The other thing that I think that I would really look for is maintaining the high standards we have for our teachers in the Rockland Public Schools. The evaluation process, making sure that they continue with their professional development, that they maintain their standards. If they have issues, finding a way of resolving those issues. Looking at teaching, it can become mundane at times, and the kids, the students really know when you're having an off day standing in front of them, and they'll take advantage of that, and they now start to decrease their standards. So you got to maintain the standard that the teachers need to be on the game every day, and that they provide the materials and they provide the information and the studies that each student needs in order to achieve their goals. And that's what I find that the school system needs to do.
And same question, Dr. Small.
So I don't think I have an initiative. And I think that almost looking for an initiative is almost saying that there's something that they're not doing well or not doing right. And I actually think that the schools are in excellent hands right now with Dr. Cron. Over the past year, while I've had the opportunity to be on the school committee, I've seen him present a 5-year plan for the school, which is just remarkable. And I think I see my role more as continuing to make sure that that the schools and Dr. Cron stay on target with that 5-year plan, that we're doing the best for our children, we're doing the best for our community, right? Having great schools is not only good for our kids, but is also good for our community because you want people to want to be part of this community. And so we need our schools to be something that we're proud of. Personally, when I'm listening to the curriculum, I'm really listening for, what are we doing for the social emotional health of our kids, making sure that there's a focus on that doesn't get lost, that we're not just teaching for the test so that we have high scores, but we're really looking at the students and providing them everything that they need. So it's not really an initiative, but it's my focus, and I think it's what I bring to the table that might be a little bit different from other members of the school committee.
Thank you, Dr. Small. We will now move to the closing statements, and we'll start with Mr. Mills.
Oh, by the way, I graduated from Rockland High School also. 1965. I enjoy living in this town. This is my second time here with my family, and I have lived here for the last 26 years. We moved into this town in the mid-'60s. My mother and father did, coming from the south end of Boston. But I still see a lot of things that are really good in our school system. They're doing a terrific job there. The teachers there, like I said, my grandson comes home from Memorial Park, and he said, Papa, this is what we did today. This is what we did. I've been in there. And I said, whoa, okay, let's sit down because I'm getting older. You're younger. I got to chase him around. So I would like to say that I'd like to do another 3 years on the school committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Dr. Small, closing statement.
So I feel like I need to explain because I'm the only one here who is not a Rockland High graduate. So I grew up in Brooklyn. I went to school in Boston. I did my medical training in Philadelphia. I was in the Air Force. I was on active duty in Biloxi, Mississippi. And then I moved back to Massachusetts. And this, I think, is just as important as having grown up here. But this is the place that my family and I decided to make our home. And we do love being here. And it is an incredible community. And we're very blessed. I think I'm very lucky to be a pediatrician, especially growing up in a home where nobody else went to college, and it wasn't the path that everybody around me took. And I feel very blessed that I have that, and I have skills from that, and I want to give back to the community. And I think being able to be on school committee and lend my pediatric talents to the committee and help support what's going on in the schools, I think is very valuable, and I hope that the people in this town find it valuable as well. I have 3 small kids. I want the schools to be great for my kids just as I want them to be for every kid in this town. So I hope that you will find what I have to offer valuable and vote for me.
Thank you, Dr. Small. Ms. Maroney, your closing statements.
I would like to say thank you all for coming here tonight. I am proud to be from Rockland. I am proud to raise my children here. I am proud that we decided to stay here. I am proud of the Rockland school systems. I think they are doing a great job. I know that my 2 children are doing well in the schools. I feel that that I'm blessed to be able to volunteer as much as I can, and that this is the next step in my journey, that my PAC journey will be ending when my daughter has grown out of the 4th grade and into the middle school, and this would be the next step for me. I have been blessed to be able to be part of that and see every little moment with them. I work part-time, so I am at school pickup every day. I'm on the fields. I'm running around to CCD and whatnot, wherever they take me, trying to do 6th grade math. So I'm hoping that this just becomes my next step, and thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you very much for running and for being here this evening. Give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
And while they're taking their seats in the crowd and the town clerk candidates come up, I just wanted to quickly, there's a number of Republican and Democrat town committee members here. So if you're a member of the town committee, you want to stand up real quick so we can see you. If you want to raise your hand to be recognized, but a round of applause to them. I'm noticing that it's much like in real life, there's like 4 Democrats to every 1 Republican, so. And lastly, owing to my newfound radio background and no dead space, Rockland's Cleanup Day, April 28, 2018, 8:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. Check in at the Rockland Town Hall. Volunteer for sidewalk cleanup, rail trail pickup, and mulching. And if you'd like to join, you can email reimaginerockland@gmail.com. And this is generously supported by the Home Depot and co-sponsored by the Rockland Park Department. Now, here we are with Town Clerk. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I will quickly move to the opening statements, and we will start with Ms. Shortall.
Hi, I'm Donna Shortall. I am the current town clerk. Can't hear me. Can you hear me now? I'm Donna Shortall. I'm the current town clerk. I've been doing the job for 3 years. And over the past 3 years, I got certified by the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. I've done a lot of changes to the office, if any of you haven't been in. We instituted welcome packs, which we send out to new residents so that they have a little feel for what the town offers. I have lived here all my life. Graduated Rockland High a little after Tom Mills, a little before Jill, whole lot before Jill. We changed the dog licensing program, which allowed us to track how many dogs there actually are in town a little better. We went from 1,200 dogs to 2,500 dogs. There's a lot of dogs out there. And in the process of that, I instituted online payments so that you can register your dog online. You can order birth, death, and marriage certificates online, which has been great for people who now don't live in Rockland, although I don't know why. But we have people who have called from out of state. They need their birth certificate. They can do it right online. They can pay online. I put together a recruiting program for election workers because a lot of people wanted to work elections and they didn't know how. So designed a flyer. I now have a great staff of election workers. Not that some of them were returning, some of them were new. So we now meet the state standards because the state requires that you're supposed to have so many people per precinct, and we're able to do that. And I thank all my election workers that are out there. I designed a birthday card, which I send out to people who are celebrating their 18th birthday, and it includes a voter registration card because it's a big deal. And we have a lot of them that come in very proudly with their little voter registration card so that they can be one of us. I designed a sympathy card for those who have to report that they've lost their dog, because for a lot of people, that's their family, and as it should be. And so we send out a sympathy card. I reorganized how we tracked paperwork within the town clerk's office and the paperwork that we use at the end of election day, because you have people who are sitting there 13, 14 hours, and the paperwork at the end of the night needs to be as concise as possible, because you go and vote, you walk away. At the end of the night, these people who have been sitting there greeting you now have to be able to account for every vote that comes through. So by streamlining the paperwork that they use at the end of the night, I've gotten great feedback from them. They seem to be a whole lot more happy. They talk to me the next day, which is really important. So I think that I've done a lot in the office. There's a lot of things I'm still working on. I want to put in swipe machines, debit and credit, for the counter. I'm working with the town collector.
Donna, I'm sorry, we've run over.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nope, that's okay. I should have probably noted when I walk to the podium, that kind of means hurry up.
Oh, okay.
So Vicky, she went a minute and a half over. We'll give you 4.5 minutes for your open. Ms. Dybell.
Good evening. My name is Victoria Dybell. I've lived in Rockland most of my life. I came here when I was 11. I graduated from Rockland High, joined the Army, served in the military. Then I went to college and got my degree in business management. I have continuously served on the Board of Health here in Rockland for the last 22 years through calm and storm. I'm very committed to whatever I choose to do, and I feel a very large commitment to this town. And I love the duties in the town clerk's office. It's home. I love being a part of the lives of our residents. I've been there when they got their driver's license, they get their marriage record, they have their first baby. There's also sad parts, and that's the death records. But I've learned to show compassion, and that's part of the job. I feel that while I'm there, I enjoy every task that I do, especially every day learning something new, getting that question that you have to research. I enjoy those things. I enjoy being there. I feel that my work experience is very diverse. I worked in the insurance industry, the financial industry, and in the driving school. That's with the RMV before coming full-time 6 years ago in the town clerk's office. It's the heartbeat of the town. It's the door to information. And I'd like to, it's a process that I'm always thinking, how can I improve this process that I'm doing to provide quicker and better customer service? It's what drives me, the rewards. And as the assistant, I've had the opportunity to gain knowledge and skills and experience that I feel is necessary to serve as your next town clerk. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dybell. We'll now move to the question and answer section. And I'll start with Ms. Dybell. Should the position of town clerk remain elected?
That's a really good question, because being elected has its benefits as well as appointed. There's pros and cons to both. So I'm not so sure that it should remain elected, but that's the way it is, and that's why I'm seeking election. It should be, I just think that I've thought of it both ways, and I'm not so sure that elected is the best, nor do I feel that appointed is either. Because you answer, as an elected official, you're going to answer to the voters. But as an appointed, you would only have to answer or be accountable to your appointing authority. So I'd say elected, after thinking about it.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Dybell. Same question for Ms. Shortall. Should the position of town clerk be elected?
By the election process, those who are seeking a position are actually applying for a job, but we're applying to all the residents of the town. We give you a chance to learn our qualifications and our strengths, and we ask you to consider, who do you think will fill the job the best? Who has the best qualifications? Just like an interviewing party, if you were being appointed. You want to make sure that let's face it, it's your tax money. So you want to make sure that you are picking the best candidate. So in some ways, it's not a whole lot different than being appointed, as long as it's done well. And by being elected, we are answerable to you. If you have a question, you can come to us. If you have a concern, you can come to us. We can work with the people in the town to try to make sure that We are doing the best job for each of you. So I do think that elected position is better serves the town as a whole.
Great, thank you. We'll start with Ms. Shortall first. You both are already in the office working, so what would you do different if elected?
I want to change the dog licensing program. The one we have doesn't serve well. It's better than what we had. But if anyone's tried licensing, it can be very frustrating. I have found another program that will make it easier, and it'll save the town money. What else can you ask for?
Thank you, Ms. Dybel, same question.
The question?
Should you be elected to the position, since you're both already in the office,
Okay.
working, what would you do different?
Well, I know that our website needs to be updated. I received several calls on a fairly frequently basis looking for, how do I get a hold of this board, or what, do they have a phone number, do they have an email, because I can't find it on your website. So I think the website needs a lot of work to better serve our residents.
Thank you. Ms. Dybel, we'll start with you in the next question. Why should we vote for you?
Because I'm confident that I can bring accountability and professionalism along with good common sense leadership.
Thank you. Ms. Shortall, the same question. Why should we vote for you?
I have 10 years of experience in the office. I've seen the changes that needed to be made, and I've made many of them. I think there are still things that need to be fixed so that we can best serve all of the residents, and that's what I'm striving for.
Great, thank you. So we will, Ms. Shortall first, we've heard an awful lot about dogs, but if elected, is there any truth to the rumor of having cats licensed as well as dogs?
I have people ask all the time why cats aren't registered. I think the problem is that cats have a large feral community. A dog does not tend to go as feral as a cat. And I, for one, do not want to have to go out and chase these feral cats. So I don't foresee that. If the state demanded it, okay. But the dog law has actually been on the books since the 1700s. I haven't seen a cat law, so I'm thinking they had the same problems.
You know, I'll editorialize. I'm a cat person. Cats cause less problems for the most part, right? Ms. Dybel, same question. Any truth to the rumor that cats may be licensed as well as dogs, or like dogs?
Not that I'm aware of, but I will tell you when before I understood the census process and they said, how many dogs? I'm like, why do they need to know how many dogs I have? And then when I was in the office, someone was bitten by a dog and we got a call, had that dog been, up to date on their rabies. So then I knew the value of licensing dogs, but I don't see the need for licensing cats.
Thank you. Let's see, who are we going to start with now? I think, Ms. Dybel, we'll start with you. We have paper ballots and electronic scanners. Is our election system in Rockland secure? Does it need updating?
Well, I think our voting machines are towards the end of their useful life. So yes, they would need to be updated in the future. We've probably got about 3 years left, but I do feel that they're in good working order and secure.
Okay, thank you. Same question, Ms. Shortall. We have paper ballots and electronic scanners. Is our election system in Rockland secure? Does it need updating?
the election process is secure because we have paper ballots. Each ballot runs through the tabulator and gets counted. If it does not, for some reason, it will be placed to the side and it will be hand counted at the end. But that is very few and very far between. So the system itself, I feel, is very secure. It can't be hacked into. The tapes, if you've ever come up to the town hall after an election, the tapes get run off. We have to calculate the totals from the tapes, and then we have to add in the few hand counted. But there's nothing there that can be hacked into. It's a self-contained system. So I feel that our process is very safe.
All right, thank you. Seeing as no other questions out there, I don't think we missed any. Just want to make sure.
That's because I stole all the pens. Sorry.
We will move to a closing statement. So first, Ms. Dybel, your closing statement.
Well, I do hope that you will consider voting for me for town clerk, as I've got a lot of exciting ideas. What really I'd like to see happen is the young kids came for a field trip a few years ago, and I haven't seen them since. And they got to learn about their town hall and our office, and I had the opportunity, and they were so excited about their birth certificate being there and learning about just what we do in our town hall. And I think it's important that, you know, those are things I'd like to see happen, and I do hope you will consider voting for me. Thank you.
Ms. Shortall, your closing statement.
I'm asking you to reelect me. I'm asking you to take into consideration the qualifications that I have and give me the job again. I've worked hard for the last 3 years. I've taken the office a very long way. If you've come into my office today, if you were in it in the past, you can see the changes. There's a lot of changes you can't see. We've reorganized a lot of things, and there's still a lot of work to do. I have to get those swipe machines. There's nothing more upsetting than when someone comes in with a newborn and asks for a birth certificate, and you have to tell them that it's cash or check, and they have to bundle the child up again and go out to find an ATM. So to me, that's very important. It's important to be able to serve today's society. And let's face it, everybody uses credit cards.
Great. Thank you very much. How about a round of applause for our town clerk candidates? So that will conclude our program this evening. I want to thank everybody for attending. I want to thank my Republican Town Committee for your help. I also want to thank the Democratic Town Committee and Chairman John Ward. I also want to give a quick thank you to Jean Bargood, who for years graciously led the Democratic Town Committee, and I want to thank her for the bipartisan Beatles mug she presented me with earlier this evening. So thank you. It's been a pleasure and a privilege. The Rockland Republican Town Committee, if you're interested in joining, meets on the 4th Monday of the month at the Rockland Library, and we hope that you will consider joining us. This is the most bipartisan I think we're going to get in this even-numbered year, so I will now turn it over to Chairman Wood.
Thank you, Jared. Now, just to keep up with that, the Democratic Committee meets every the second Tuesday of the month at the library, for those who are interested. And I want to thank everyone for coming out here tonight. It's a great turnout, and thank those folks who will be tuning in to watch us on cable. But you've seen a number of candidates come out here this evening. If you see someone that you like, support them, help them in some way. If you donate to their cause, it doesn't have to be money. You can help them with holding signs, talking them up, handing out pamphlets. These people have put themselves out to the community, and support them. If you like them, support them, help them out. And don't forget, you have to get out there and vote. Our election is Saturday, April 14th, so get out there and vote. Thank you very much.